Dramatic blow to Donald Trump's trade policy playbook. A U.S. federal court is ruling that his sweeping tariffs that were imposed under emergency powers are unconstitutional, saying that Congress alone regulates international trade. So global markets have rallied on the back of this, but the Trump administration is pushing back with an appeal. Moments after that ruling, the Trump administration has appealed, saying that, and I'm quoting over here, it is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency. Now, what does this mean politically for Trump, this court ruling? Is there a deeper cut to his administration with Musk exiting, Doge as well? And what does this court ruling mean for the ongoing bilateral negotiations with India, especially with the pressure mounting on New Delhi to concede in key sectors like agriculture and auto and digital trade? What does it really mean for global and Indian stock markets? We've got all of this to discuss, and joining us tonight to unpack the seismic implications of the US court ruling on tariff authority are two sharp, seasoned voices. Rajkamal Rao with us, Managing Director of Rao Advisors. He's a well-read op-ed columnist, and joining him is Ray Locker, author and presidential historian. He's chronicled the twists of US political power players. Let me come to you, Mr. Rao. Let's start with this court ruling, which seems to have clipped Trump's authority to unilaterally impose those tariffs. From a policy and a market lens, how big a hit is this to the administration's economic muscle?
Thank you for having me, Vikram. This is a big decision. We've seen federal district judges stopping Trump every step of the way, but there was nothing like this last night. First of all, this is not a single judge's opinion. The special court that nobody has really heard of, this is the Court of International Trade. It was a 3-0 bench decision. And ironically, one of the judges was actually a Trump appointee. So essentially what the court is saying is that while Congress did pass a law in the 70s during the oil crisis, and they called it the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. It's a long law. Essentially, it was meant to address unusual and extraordinary threats during a national emergency. Think the oil shocks of the 70s. And Congress did delegate to the president the authority to act. The problem with Trump in this case was that he interpreted that specific, unusual, and extraordinary national emergency clause to say, because America has been going through a trade, 40 years of trade deficits, he wanted to restore the trade balance or the imbalance. He wanted to address the budget deficit, attract investment, and revive U.S. manufacturing. And those things, the judges essentially said, these things do not constitute an emergency.
Right.
In fact, one of the judges, I believe it was a Reagan appointee, I think she even used the example of peanut butter. I mean, she said something like, if there isn't sufficient peanut butter,
yes,
it will cause some inconvenience, but that doesn't mean that it constitutes a national emergency.
Right. So, in fact, if you look at it from a historical standpoint, Mr. Locker, you tell us how unusual is this level of judicial intervention in presidential trade powers. We're talking about overreach, but what does this kind of court ruling mean for the kind of politics that Trump pursues and how he has exercised power as president in this term, especially so far?
Well, it's another indication that the courts find many of the things he's doing against the law or unconstitutional. I mean, he's done all these executive orders. Many of them have been rebuffed by one federal judge or a panel of federal judges. In this case, 3 judges, 2 of them appointed by Republican presidents, Reagan and Trump. He says all these things, he claims all these powers that he doesn't have. And so that's why they're being rejected, not because he's running up against a bunch of Marxist, Leninist judges. It's because what he's doing is illegal.
So, but just given his narrative of being this deal maker, Mr. Locker, how much political capital does he actually stand to lose with this kind of setback, legal setback?
Well, I mean, You can look at it as a loss for him, which it is, but in some ways, the court did him a tremendous favor. I mean, these tariffs are a killer for him politically. His ratings have gone down, the economy is in turmoil, and now these tariffs, at least temporarily, are off the board. That means the pressures for inflation are down. Um, that businesses might be able to act more with more planning instead of worrying about what's the next thing that's going to happen. So he can no longer claim an emergency to enact these tariffs. And obviously, this will probably go to the Supreme Court. And they have also been handing Trump a variety of losses. So looks like a loss for him, but in the longer run, it could be a victory because a lot of the economic damage that these tariffs are doing may not happen.
So it might actually be a blessing in disguise for the Trump administration. Mr. Rao, do you agree? This kind of ruling on the books now, how might it impact the American bargaining position, especially in ongoing trade talks with countries like India that have resisted certain demands at least?
Uh, Actually, I completely agree with Mr. Lockhart that this is a big blessing in disguise for him. Um, Vikram, you've been watching Trump for a long time. Trump likes to blame others for some of the problems that happen.
Yes.
And here he can easily blame this on, as was said, activist Marxist judges that are coming in the way of his vision for a different kind of America First economy, and he can blame them, and he can even run in 2026 on this message that he tried to do well, but he was stopped by the courts. So definitely, in the meantime, when markets recover, he's going to take credit for markets recovering. So yeah, it is definitely a blessing in disguise. To your second question about how this will help other countries.
Yes.
So the old diplomatic trick of you wait and wait and wait and only then act. I think that is going to help.
Right.
The United Kingdom kind of looks a little stupid now because they jumped the gun and they tried to do a deal with Trump.
True.
But the European Union, India, and other countries, Korea, Japan, they have waited, and in this case, waiting has helped because why would you want to strike a deal that will not stand up scrutiny by the Supreme Court?
Indeed. So waiting might have helped some of these countries that are trying to get this trade deal, and that includes India. And I'll come to that broader question about the bilateral trade agreement and how India needs to play it from here. But Trump playing a victim of institutional sabotage, that seems possible. India being under pressure to make concessions in sectors like agriculture and autos and digital trade. Does this kind of ruling, Mr. Rao, give New Delhi more confidence to push back, knowing Trump's leverage has just shrunk?
So I want to be a little careful here, Vikram, because the steel, the cars, the aluminum, some of those tariffs were imposed under the so-called national security umbrella.
Yes.
And those I don't believe they were not under the court order yesterday. So remember, there are trade rules like Section 232 and Section 301 that still give Trump authority to impose tariffs in specific sectors, like as you said, auto, like as you said, pharmaceuticals. But these are narrower. What the three judges said yesterday was that the blanket class action, retaliatory tariffs and tariffs across for fentanyl and reciprocal tariffs, the big ones, right?
Yeah.
The class action tariffs, all those they said he overreached. But Trump still has a lot of tools in his closet.
So with those tools in his closet, is he likely to use them anytime soon, Mr. Locker? What's your reading? Because one would like to see some kind of parallels as well with past presidents. You being a historian, tell us maybe Nixon, maybe Reagan, we start talking about him. Who's ambitious for strong economic control, they were similarly stymied, weren't they, by legal or political forces. Can you draw parallels over there and what it could mean for the future in terms of Trump's kind of politics? Mr. Locker.
Yeah, when you look at bold economic moves made by previous U.S. presidents, you go back to the 1930s with Franklin Roosevelt,
Yes.
the National Recovery Act, which was passed by Congress and then tossed out by the Supreme Court in, I believe, 1935, along with a number of other, initiatives that led to Roosevelt trying to pack the Supreme Court in 1937, which didn't happen. I mean, those are most obvious parallels that come to mind to me right now. I mean, you've had previous presidents suffer losses, before the Supreme Court on a variety of things. And they've lashed out in different ways, trying to do different things. Go back to Nixon. One of the things that really stymied him was he was trying to make all these claims about unemployment and then targeted the federal economists at the Bureau of Labor Statistics as Jews trying to do him wrong.
Right.
This is the same kind of stuff that Trump does, but writ much larger.
Yes.
So Trump does everything more bombastically, more dramatically, and I would say less effectively than previous presidents.
I see. So, Mr. Rao, from now looking at this entire court ruling from an investor perspective, you think it is going to be perceived as a de-escalation of global trade risk? Because global and Indian stock markets are now looking at this development positively, but will they continue seeing this as a net positive, looking at the way the ruling has come through, despite the appeal from the administration?
I think so. In the short, a lot of this is going to get resolved. We do not know exactly what will happen. Some parts of the judgment were still unclear. We do not know if it was a permanent injunction where action will be paused during the appeals process. We do not know how the Supreme Court will weigh in. So, Vikram, you and I have talked about this before. Markets do not like uncertainty.
Yes.
And so this is still a very uncertain environment, but it is becoming more certain because one thing is for sure, these kinds of blanket tariffs, class action tariffs across imposed at will, I think they're going to go away. And I think that is going to make the markets react better. But we also have to keep an eye on the bond market here. That is where I think there is some trouble for the U.S. economy.
Yes.
And so the next 3 to 4 weeks, I think, it'll become clearer as to where we are headed.
Indeed. I mean, one needs to wait this out. But Mr. Locker, could this kind of ruling force Trump's team to retool its campaign messaging, to kind of, forget the campaigning and what they were promising, but even right now to look away from tariffs and towards other more controllable levers of economic nationalism? Will the narrative really change from the Trump side to be able to recalibrate? Like you said, he's losing clout politically. And if you look at the way the economy is moving, and we've got the first quarter numbers coming through as well, he doesn't have much to write home about.
No, he doesn't. I mean, Trump is a master at saying one thing and doing another, claiming credit for things that he didn't have anything to do with, trying to, make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. He does that all the time. A lot of people are fooled by it. I'm not, and I know a lot of people aren't fooled by it.
Yes.
Look at what he's doing with Iran. He's negotiating for a new nuclear deal. Word out now is it looks a lot like the old deal that he got rid of.
Right.
He's going to claim victory for redoing something that was done years ago. So, that's just how he operates. He's going to do that in terms of tariff and trade policy.
Yes.
And you name it, anything else.
But look at this now doubling up with Elon Musk's exit from Doge, combined with this court ruling. Does this 1-2 punch signal a broader institutional deflation in Trump's economic strategy, you think? Mr. Locker?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, the stuff with Musk and Doge, that was all smoke and mirrors. They claimed all these great reductions in costs, and that never really happened. They provided very little information about what they were doing, and Musk overplayed his hand. You look at what happened 2 months ago with the Supreme Court election in Wisconsin, in which he spent like at least $10 million, showed up on stage, made a big deal out of it, and they lost by 10 percentage points. And that was kind of the beginning of the end with Musk. And so Trump probably discarded Musk more than Musk left.
I see.
You don't see him around as much. So that's done. And these tariffs may be done. So what's next for Trump? Maybe nothing. I mean, just kind of like let the economy be, and he'd probably be in much better shape than if he kept trying to do all these tariffs and other things that he's trying to do, like going after Harvard and universities.
Right, right. How do you view it? Do you agree with what Mr. Locker is saying over here, Mr. Rao? Because this could, in one way, signify this exit of Musk from Doge. It could signify a deeper rift in the MAGA and the tech world kind of alliance that we were seeing. Is there a deeper rift that this exit signifies?
Yeah. So, Vikram, the favorite word yesterday in Washington was the word disappointed.
Right.
It was funny because Trump said he was disappointed with Putin. Musk said he was disappointed with Washington and the and the GOP Congress. So everybody seems to be disappointed, but these are the people in power. So it was kind of amusing what happened yesterday. Where I believe, though, I think the Supreme Court has one very important gift to give. And if you recall, Vikram, on the 15th of May, there was the birthright citizenship case that was heard in the Supreme Court. And a subtext to that was this issue of nationwide injunctions. You have a federal district court judge. There are 677 of them. Any one judge can go impose a nationwide injunction on any Trump action. And they discussed it. If the Supreme Court comes down in favor of Trump in that mostly weighted hearing, then a lot of the mojo for Trump, I think, is recovered because individual judges can only impose judgments that cover the local region, and there will not be this chaos that you see when these judges impose nationwide injunctions. That, I think, would continue to give him a lot of fuel to continue to pass these EOs and try to change domestic policy.
Yes. So if there is this shift in the kind of policy that Trump has been pursuing, do you think we're going to see a hedging away of bets by corporate America, especially industries like defense and EVs and space? Do you think that's likely to happen? Something that might be emblematic in Musk's exit as well from Doge. Mr. Rao.
Yes, I believe so. The thing is that many corporate leaders weren't really happy with what was going on.
Yes,
and so with Musk leaving, you see a lot of corporate leaders saying very nice things about him. And indeed, he tried to change the federal bureaucracy. He did a lot of good things, at least to point those things out. But I think the corporate leaders, will view Musk's exit more positively, because they were a little uncomfortable with how Musk was wielding his friendship with Trump to potentially help himself. Whether it was with his space business, with his Starlink business, whatever.
Yes.
There was some talk that he is trying to enrich himself, and I think a lot of company leaders are happy that he is no longer going to be in Washington as much.
How do you look at it, Mr. Locker? Does this kind of add to the narrative that Trump is losing his grip on elite industrial support and Could that shake donor confidence in the kind of Republican strongholds that Trump is known to have?
Well, I think a lot of business leaders have looked at what's happened since January 20th with alarm. You have major investors like Ken Griffin saying this is not something that's helpful. This is not what they bargained for. I mean, the conflicts of interest with Elon Musk were innumerable. I mean, going to Starlink and SpaceX and trying to, do things, making State Department buy cyber trucks, which are a tremendous failure. Um, so I think many people in Washington are glad that he's gone. Look, we already have an agency that looks at government waste. It's called the Government Accountability Office. I've read thousands of those reports over the years, and they do a great job at pointing out things that don't work in government. Same with inspectors general. We don't need Elon Musk and a bunch of teenagers or kids out of college showing up in a government office, misreading government data, having access to all your personal information, and drawing the wrong conclusions. I mean, we have people who do that who have done a great job and know a lot more about it than him and his minions.
Yes.
So I'm happy to see the back of him. I don't think that he's really done us a great service.
But Mr. Locker, what do you make about this thing with India? If Washington's hand is now considered weaker, could it encourage Indian negotiators, you think, to harden their stance on, say, data localization, on e-commerce rules, on agriculture subsidies, or that kind of thing that we were expected to concede ground on?
Oh, absolutely. I think India has the upper hand in all of this. And I think the Indians already know this, right? They've dealt with Trump. I mean, yes, he's the president of the United States, but he's a tremendously erratic, capricious person. And he does things on a whim. They get overturned. They don't work. He loses interest. He says, I'm going to have something in 2 weeks. It never happens. So why would you base your entire economy on dealing with somebody like that when you know that if you wait, somebody's going to do a lot of that work for you, just like the court did yesterday. So if I'm in the Indian government and the trade negotiators, I'm sitting there saying, what do you have for me?
Yes.
Because I'm not coming to you on bended knee asking for you to do me a favor. You do me a favor.
But Mr. Locker, you've studied the presidency closely. Do you think the kind of developments we are talking about tonight may actually force Trump into being more reactive, more unpredictable, those kind of tactics similar to the strategy that we've seen in 2020 during times of instability? Do you think he could come back with more of that could be more lethal?
Oh, look, he'll do anything. He's a survivor. He acts like he's cornered all the time. Look, he lost the 2020 election. Everybody knows it. He tried to overthrow the election. He ginned up the attack on the Capitol. He's a 34-time convicted felon. He told more than 30,000 lies during his first term as president. Anything's possible with this guy.
Yes.
And anybody who's watched him for enough time knows that.
Well, one will have to wait and watch exactly what to expect, because expecting the unexpected is something that we in media circles have come to live with when it comes to Trump. But when we talk about corporate leaders like Musk stepping aside, one wonders how much room Trump really has now to pivot, or perhaps he's locked into this shrinking circle of loyalists. Do you think so, Mr. Rao?
Yeah. In fact, the so-called corporate leaders. Remember Vivek Ramaswamy?
Yes.
Most people have forgotten about him, right? So he was supposed to be a rock star during the Trump campaign. Musk was, of course, one. Tim Cook and many other people, they made their regular pilgrimages to Mar-a-Lago. Today, Tim Cook and Trump are not in sync. So there are definite issues here, Vikram, and I think as the corporate, shall we say, influence in the White House, it comes down, then and it's not even been 6 months since Trump took office. I wonder whom Trump will now rely on for advice. If it is Howard Lutnick, who is or Scott Bessent. I mean, who are these? Who is he going to talk to anymore?
Yes.
Right. And so there is a lot of upheaval already. It's not even been 6 months, and we are in for a rough ride.
Right, Mr. Rao, tell us, does this moment now mark a broader realignment of power with all these institutions reasserting control after all the kind of disruption that we've seen in this Trump era? Mr. Rao?
Yeah, you've heard this expression. The Democrats are getting energized,
Yes.
and the judges are energized. So this is, and if the economy is a little weaker in the second quarter, the first quarter, I'm not so sure if you can actually blame it on anything, because a
Right.
lot of it was related to a lot of companies advancing their imports, and when you import extra stuff, that shows up negative on GDP. I think the second quarter numbers are going to be very crucial, Vikram.
Yes.
If the second quarter numbers show a decline, then you will see many more Republicans also, questioning what Trump is doing,
Right.
and so there can be some additional political upheaval in Washington.
Sure.
And as I said, everything is going to depend on what's going to happen in the next 6 weeks.
Indeed. Well, it's quite clear that in his second term, President Trump is facing this big legal challenge on his signature policy tool, which indeed is tariffs, and the court's ruling. Also, Musk's retreat from Doge. Also, India's pushback on trade. All signal a shift, and the world may be done playing by Trump's rules, even if he's still calling the shots, because the Trump era is, of course, far from over. And yet that era of unchecked Trumpian leverage, that may just be. Let's see what happens. Thanks, Rajkamal Rao and Ray Locker. Thank you for decoding this pivotal moment with clarity and insight. Thank you for joining us on India.